Okay, Fred, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Jackson County Board of County Commissioners for June 8th, 2021. At this time, please stand for prayer by Commissioner Hill, and then we'll do the pledge.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, once again wants to come before you as a humble citizens and a humble board. Lord, we ask you to give us guidance, make the right decisions for our citizens, and make all the citizens' requests be known and known to you, Lord. And we ask this in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item is Ms. Willan, the agenda.
Yes, sir. We have under section 2, 4 additions. It'll be number 17, 18, 19, and 20. We have a 2021 EDA CARES Co-op advertising agreement. Number 18, board approval of change order number 1 regarding a paving project. Number 19, board approval of CEI services work authorization to DHM. Number 20, request board approval of the new market tax credit engagement. This is actually will be added, actually will not be number 20. That will be added under section 1 to number 2. These are just some additional attachments that you all can reference for number 2, the new market tax credit item.
For motion that the agenda be approved with the additions spelled out by Ms. Daniels.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Donifro. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Commissioner Hill. Did you have a question?
There's 2 deletions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Under section 2, number 12 and 13 to be deleted.
Does your motion still stand, Commissioner
Yes.
Donifro? And your second?
Second also.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, Ms. Judy Austin.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I want to present the employee of the month for May of 2021. It's Mr. Kyle Chandler, who was unable to be here in May, so we're just presenting it today. I'll read the proclamation.
Mr. Kyle, would you come up?
The mic's not on.
Okay. All right, so whereas Jackson County has established an Employee of the Month program to recognize one employee to represent the various departments, and whereas Mr. Kyle Chambliss began his employment with Jackson County on April 15th, 2020, and currently serves in the position of Equipment Operator 3 for Public Transportation Department, and has been selected as the Employee of the Month for May 2021 for the standards that he has displayed in the performance of his job duties. And whereas Mr. Chambliss is an exemplary employee who demonstrates professionalism in his task that he faces, his loyalty and commitment to Jackson County are noticed and admired by his coworkers. And whereas Mr. Chambliss is a dedicated employee that handles issues that arise in a timely and efficient manner, he goes above and beyond his everyday duties to assist the public and coworkers. Mr. Chambliss comes to work with a can-do attitude and is always willing to handle any task that is presented to him. Most recently, during a heavy rain event that took place on April 24th, Mr. Chambliss stopped to assist motorists that were stranded due to rising water on Caverns Road. Mr. Chambliss sets a good example for other employees and has proven himself a valuable asset to the Public Transportation Department. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Jackson County, Florida commends and congratulates Mr. Kyle Chambliss on his selection as Employee of the Month for May of 2021. Congratulations.
Thank you for all that you do for Jackson County, and that goes the smoothest. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion with, do we need a proclamation that he gets a day off also?
well, I'm not gonna give him a day off.
I'll give you,
No.
I'll give you two then. Well, we need a proclamation.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I make a motion, we accept the employee of the month and, the check with $50.
That's correct.
And, a day off.
So
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate. All those in favor, raise your right hand. I would just like to say that, Kyle, we really appreciate what you do for the county. We appreciate your attitude on the Saturday that about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when we got all that rain. I was out driving around checking roads and happened to be out on Highway 71 and just stopped to check the area near the new school. There was vehicles stranded. There was a young lady and a young boy in a vehicle that had stalled and a black truck behind it. Some guy jumps out of this black truck with his Bermuda shorts and flip flops and
through the New Market Tax Credit Program. The New Market Tax Credit Program was established under the Clinton administration, has been proceeding ever since. There are entities called CDEs, Community Development Entities, who are allocated new market tax credits from the Treasury. They go and they make a pitch to the Treasury. The Treasury says, okay, you're blessed with these new market tax credits. Go find projects which serve low-income communities. And then CDEs go out and they market their tax credits, and people like Eric Davis Consultants goes to the CDEs and say, hey, I've got a project for you that fits your program. So that's basics in that program. There are tax credits that are given to entities. Typically, these tax credits are used by banks who act as sort of the funding leverage agency for the project. Originally, they were designed, as I understand it, for for-profit entities. I know one for-profit entity in Jackson County did one several years ago, but they found a way to do it for government entities by establishing nonprofit corporations whose sole mission is to support the entity of the government. Like I said, we completed the one with high school, with the new high school in Graceville, or the new K-8 school was what it was. We moved it to the high school. We just last week completed one for Jackson Hospital, where Jackson Hospital was reimbursed about $1.9 million for money that it had already spent on capital improvement projects. That one was more of a equipment-based agreement, and we basically put some money in our pocket and purchased a new nuclear medicine camera, which is a real expensive piece of equipment. Eric is the consultant who brought the CDEs to us. Eric also worked with a tax lawyer out of Portland named Alan Pasternak, and we worked with them, and we basically worked with the same team of lawyers for Holland and Knight, who represent SunTrust/Truist, and they're sort of the linchpin that makes all this work. In doing these projects, I've worked with Neighbors Giblin, Mark Mushin in particular. He's worked with me on the project. As I understand it, you're in a position to use this money for the project, Endeavor project, and other improvements that are going to happen out at the old boys' school. I've again, Michelle asked me to help her. I've asked Mr. Muskin if you'd be interested in joining again if you decide to go ahead with this project. Now I believe what you have before you is the engagement of Mr. Davis. There are no costs to Mr. Davis unless a project is funded. We had some questions, Mr. Muskin and I did, about the project, the potential for the project, and what would happen if the project didn't go through, and what risk would the county have for repayment of these tax credits. And basically through discussion with Eric and Alan Pasternak, you really don't have any risk unless you take that money and you go to the Bahamas with it. I don't see that happening, knowing these people over here and how that money is going to be controlled. So what you have before you today is to approve Eric as the consultant. After Alan is approved as consultant, he will bring, if you decide to hire me and Michelle, or you want to do somebody else, that's fine too. We'll bring consultants to you. We used a new one in the hospital transaction, a new accountant, financial person that assisted, that was more cost efficient than the one we used in the Graceville project. So we really refined it. We get better and better. We do it every time we find better consultants and try and save more money and put more money back into the entity's pockets. Really, the only risk you have going forward is if for some reason, once the project starts, you bail on the project. If you bail on the project, you're responsible for the consultant fees that were incurred without the project closing. Those fees are probably, it wouldn't be Eric's fees, probably in the $300,000 or $400,000 range. The lawyers who work for Truist are really expensive. They're really good. They do a good job of keeping the project on track. We started the hospital project in about January, and we closed it last month. So you got a 3-4 month project in getting this closed. You need a lot of support from your financial staff to provide information for the projections and to validate the cost that you have expended. I also understand that in this one, there would be probably $3.5 million bridge loan from SunTrust that would be involved because you're in a reimbursement grant situation. So that money would also be funded into this project. I saw the funding sheet from SunTrust yesterday. Their typical, or Truist, their typical funding source. You're going to need that regardless of whether you do the new market tax credits or not if you go through with this. One thing I want to be sure with is that y'all are committed with running this Endeavor project until at least for 7 years, because these new market tax credits are forgiven over a 7-year period. So you really need to have a commitment to be in this for 7 years. Not saying you'd be responsible for the reimbursement of the money, but none of these have failed. Banks don't want them to fail. Banks don't want to take over a project like Project Endeavor or the project here. The reason these are sort of unique in Florida, and one of the reasons I have Mr. Muskin help me on these things is we do not pledge any of our real estate collateral or equipment because we can't do that under the Constitution. We had a real hard time explaining that to the last CDE, but we eventually got it through and found some other rents that we could pledge, but we were okay with it when it got finished. It was a good financial project for the hospital, and the one was good for the school board. So basically, Eric has, I don't know if he can share his screen where he can show the flow of monies involved in this. Have y'all seen that yet?
Yeah, we
Yeah, he's actually done a presentation to our
Okay.
board.
So I'm
I
telling
got
y'all stuff you've already heard.
One thing you're saying Endeavor, it's the Autism Center, am I
Yeah.
correct?
That's correct.
The Autism Center at Endeavor.
Right.
So that,
is where they're
yes.
for.
Yeah, that's my,
autism.
They're just the autism.
Okay, does this keep us from doing other things on Endeavor?
No, is the way we talked about the project the other day, there are, and this was working with Mr. Melvin, there are other pieces that fit into this to get us to the monies that we need to be. You need to spend $6 million at least to bear any fruit from the new market tax credit, or else everything's eaten up by fees. So in looking at all the projects that were put together, and Alan and Eric think that they're viable, that will reach that threshold. So there were some things about a civic center or water improvements and sewer improvements to sort of expand the whole project area versus just the school.
Okay.
So
so, Mr. Fuqua, we worked with Eric several times on some projects, and in that, now you're asking for a motion for this board to go into interaction between you. Are you representing the city also?
no.
The reason I'm asking that because I know that map, and is Eric online?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Eric, if you will, does most of the people here have been provided the map of that new tax credit market? I know it really don't go many east of Chipola River, is that correct? Besides that little.
That's correct. That's the boundary line. That's correct.
So,
Yes.
it would really help us to know, maybe where all we don't look for new tax credit. I know Eric's met with me several times about the different areas, but is that have,
This one is all out at the.
just though, this is
at the
isolated.
old boys.
So does this tie us up for, like Clint was saying, doing any other project?
No.
No, but I will say, Commissioner Hill, it does give the opportunity when you're bringing these next set of projects online to get more funding for those projects. So we're talking about the convention center or the historic or the museum or housing out there. There's opportunities to get more funding, more new market tax credit funding for those subsequent projects. And this
I
just gets
remember
you
that
started.
spreadsheet, Eric, that you gave me that, I think Ms. Fuqua just said, it. You can leverage up to 5 million and get what, 20% of that potentially new tax credit market area, is that right?
Yeah, so I can share my screen with you if you want, sir, but I basically am calculating that we're going to have a net cash subsidy to the county of $985,000 from this project at this
And
point.
that's just that one project, correct?
That's just the one project, and then additional projects, there'll be more subsidy available to you for additional.
Do you have that map on your slide presentation? I just want to see the map real quick.
I can pull that up for you, yes, sir.
So Matt, all y'all need this is isolated specifically to the autism center there at Dozier for the 985K, right?
Correct.
It's just an agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no
With
brainer.
Davis.
It's amazing what he's done. I've read some of his portfolios that he's done.
The map is sort of weird. I don't know which map you're going to see, but the school board looked at for the new school, this will be on the east side of the county, and where we plan to build the new school, because of all the rich folks who live in Grand Ridge, it doesn't qualify. But if it was across the street or across Highway 90, it would qualify. And these are based on census block.
Hopefully that will change when the new census information comes out.
I read yesterday that's not coming out till September of next year.
Oh, no.
We should have the new map though, probably at the end of, probably in first quarter of next year. Then we can use that new map effectively as soon as it's released for any projects that are currently excluded.
Good. They made a big push in Grand Ridge to get people to do their census information. And in meeting with the census people, they were saying that if you don't fill it out, you don't count. And they just assume you make whatever the most, the average is.
There it is right there. So pull it, Eric, if you can manipulate it to go that southeast corner. I think that's where Paul's talking about the school that barely.
Yeah, it's right over here.
There you go. So that's basically Jackson County, that southeast corner. And then of course, that's all the northwest corner. So all the gray also, we're not qualified because there's too many Bentleys around, I guess.
But the dividing line here is the river. This is the dividing line between the qualified and the non-qualified areas into the current map. that we have.
Needs is in it.
Chairman, I'm.
Yes, Mr.
Of course,
Donovan.
being a new commissioner, still very unclear on a lot of aspects of this, but I guess just real quickly, and Matt, you gave a very good explanation and brought me up to speed somewhat, but right now for this particular project, we're looking at expending roughly $5 million so that we can be reimbursed in the neighborhood of $900,000. Is that what I'm hearing?
In the total project cost a little bit higher than that. Sarah.
5.8.
Yeah.
Almost $6 million. So, and we've got documented cost that we feel like we'll be able to reach that threshold so that we can.
So that's really a question for some of these on the call, because I'm a little unclear myself, because these are grant dollars, but there's a bridge loan involved in this. Is that correct?
Yeah, so let me explain that. This is Eric here again. So we have a $5.88 million grant from DEO, and of which $2 million has already been expended. So we have $3.5 million, a little bit more than that, that has not yet been expended out there at the site. And the 5.88 million is designed for the entire property out there. So we're going to get an additional 985,000 on top of the state grant. So at the end of the day, this is just additional money on top of state dollars. This is not any dollars that the county is having to expend. It has not already received from the grant from the DEO.
You can be reimbursed for money you've already spent, which is really good when you can do that.
Special finger
And for
reserve.
money you're going to spend. If you're going to spend it, then you have to set aside some construction reserves to be sure it's complete. It's a little more complicated. But the DEO grant, it doesn't make difference if it's a grant, if it's a gift. If you borrow the money, you still qualify for expending that money in a qualified area.
So in hiring Mr. Davis, I understand that his fee is based on 3%.
On it, 2 point,
It says 3% here. But what is that 3% of?
It's 3%, sir. It's 3% of the qualified equity investment, which in this case is $7 million. So my fee would be paid, doesn't get paid unless you get paid, is $210,000. So if the project doesn't close, I don't get paid. If the project closes, my fee is paid. And then we have the rest of the transaction fees, which include the legal and professional fees and CD allocation fees and audit reserve fees. But those are not paid by the county. Those are all paid out of the new market tax credit dollars. The county does not write a check to me. The dollars are all paid out of the new market tax credit subsidy from that source rather than from the county. So at the end of the day, the county has zero or virtually zero. I think the hospital had a fee of $7.50. That was their only cost on their deal of cost outlays that the county is actually paying. The rest of it's all coming from the new market tax credit.
Commissioner Hill.
And what was the look back window time? 3 years or 2? 3
It's 3 years under the new law. It's now 3 years. Yes.
Any more questions?
I make a motion to accept this proposal.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hill to accept the proposal. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Fate. Any more questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Fuqua.
If it's acceptable with y'all, I'll get a fee proposal for me, Michelle, and Mustin for a later meeting. Really don't need it now till we start it going.
Ms. Buckholder? Davis, right, just to engage his services.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Daniels.
Eric, do you want to clarify for the record what all you needed approved today? I know there was a list of engagement.
Yes. Yes, thank you for that, Will-Ann. So we have my engagement letter. We have the term sheet or the commitment letter from LISC, which is the CDE, the primary CDE that's providing $5 million allocation that needs to be signed. We have a LOI from, excuse me, from Truist for their investment plus $2 million allocation. So that brings us to a total of 7 that needs to be signed. We have an engagement letter from Alan Pasternak, who's our quality counsel, which needs to be signed. We have an engagement letter from Novogradac, which needs to be signed. And the county also needs to appoint a business representative to represent the county in non-legal and financial matters. I'd recommend David Melvin for that task if that's something that's acceptable for the county.
So, Mr. Chairman, I got a question. How we gonna document all those notations he needs made? I'll make the motion, but
So I was just going to say that all of that should be in your additions
Yeah,
packet, but it got mixed up. But all, the attorneys have seen all of these.
right, but I need to, we need to know how we can present this as in the form of a motion. Yeah, nothing's chronicalized.
But is all of these services included in the 3% fee?
No.
So
No.
don't we need to know what those services are before we approve them?
They're in the
Yeah.
contract. Alan,
They're included in this information they just gave us?
Eric, do you have a
That's
bullet
correct.
point list? Do you have a bullet point list of those motions needed available to us?
Yes, I do. And I sent that to Willan and I can,
Put them up on the screen.
okay.
if You can.
No, I can. Give me just a minute.
Michelle, you reviewed these?
I have for
Okay.
her.
Oh, you have, okay. All right, I should ask you. All right, very good.
And Mr. Mustin, I don't know if he's online, we're using all the same teachers.
Sure, yeah.
And the fees.
Well, and that will take care of item 20 on our agenda, right?
That's right. And Hunter says all of this is listed. Hunter, you want to come clarify? It is in the agenda item?
Everything that we need to approve.
Just like the document, there's no agenda memos.
No, it's part of the agenda
Yeah, are
item
they bullet
that's
out-
in
are they-
your that's already in the book.
Are they bullet point listed? So we can read them out for notation.
That's why I had him read it out on the record so they'd be in the minutes, but
Right.
the attachments are in here for what we need signed.
All right,
What page?
Yeah. Well, I think.
I'm still looking for it. I have it. I'm still looking for it.
So, yeah, they're not on the page. It's the whole body. They're not.
This whole
distracted.
thing?
packet,
Yeah, they're not distracted. Yeah.
You know, like,
but they
Captain Act will
also,
charge $95,000 for the service. Right. That's included in here.
I saw it somewhere.
I think I
Correct. And
can.
again, that's not something that the county is paying. That's just coming out of the new market tax credit dollars. So those are not county dollars.
I counted 7 potential motions in that, or one motion with 7 different bullet items. Is that about anybody else count? Yeah, I need one right, but I just want to include all, I counted 7 when he was calling it out. I don't know if that.
Sorry, I keep looking for my.
Are you gonna be able to-
Eric, are you gonna be able to pull that up
Yeah, I've got it right here.
Fred? Joey, can you put it on the screen?
I think Eric, I think you-
Yeah, I'll get it here in just a second, so as I can highlight it here. Okay, there we go.
I think there's several other projects. that we-
Okay,
Tax credit market. There, okay, so I counted, there was 8, obviously. So Danielle, that's for the record, and I'll make that motion.
You can print me that screen,
Yeah.
Joey. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we set the 8 bulletin points for Endeavor Autism provided by Eric Davis.
You don't have number 5 yet. Y'all do that next time. That would be for me.
So I need, okay, so we need to exclude 5 on that motion for now? Yeah. So 1 through 8 excluding 5. In my motion.
Do you,
So we're
Local
exempting
council.
5 from the motion?
I am so far, yeah. All right, so we haven't determined on number 7, we haven't determined if David Melvin, that was Eric's recommendation. Is that correct, Eric?
that's correct. Yes, that's right. We need a business representative to represent the county on the transaction.
Okay, what's your motion?
My motion to include 1 through 8, exclude 5, and put David Melvin for Eric Davis' recommendation as a representative on that.
Number 7?
Number 7, yes.
We really
Okay.
don't have 6 and 8 ready to go.
Yeah, 8.
All right, so which one do we need to do then?
1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
1 through 4 and include 7, exclude 5, 6, and 8. Okay. That's my motion. You got that, Danielle?
My second.
Why don't you restate your motion so Marie can get it?
Marie, you online? Yeah, my motion would to be accept 1 through 4. Excuse, correction, 1 through 5, exclude 6.
Exclude 5.
Exclude
Exclude
5.
five. You want to include six. Yeah.
6, and 8.
There you go. That, I make that motion.
Second.
Y'all can figure out the numbers last and y'all know our intent.
1 through 4 plus 7
That's right.
of these bulleted items
And then David Melvin.
that's going to be printed off by our IT guy. Is there a
David Melvin
second?
being the county's representative.
Okay, and David Melvin is going to be appointed. Okay. All right. Commissioner Pate has seconded the motion. Are there any more questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. McKinney, you voted for it, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can we go to number 8 first? Go revisit number 8. Number 8, you'll have a nonprofit 501c3 entity that is going to be a party to this transaction. We need 3 members of that. Typically, 1 member is the chairman of the board for the entity. So y'all could go ahead and select that now. And then y'all need to come up with 2 other members who would be willing to serve on this board. On the,
So what's gonna be the name of the company, the LLC? Does it need to be
Well,
named?
Can't we use the
Don't have one?
autism group?
Yeah, they already.
It's a 501c3,
we know we need one just for this,
just for this.
just for this entity. You may pick a member or 2 off of there to complete this
You want to
transaction,
be chairman of that?
but as chairman,
All right, I make a motion, we accept that, and I'll put Jim Peacock as our representative as chairman, and then we'll, I
We'll
guess,
have to appoint
we have
2
two
other
more.
people.
I don't know.
But
who's
not
on
off the board.
that. No, this board.
not
off
off
the-
this board, they
No,
have to
that-
be
they're-
independent. And we
So,
can do that.
Now, you will do all the legal paperwork forming this 501c3.
Alan passed back now.
Okay. All right.
That's my motion.
Now you need a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Pate. All right. Are there any questions?
And y'all.
We will name
2
the
to
other
be named
2.
later.
Pardon?
2 to be named later.
Yeah, the
But
2
make
will
sure
be
we're
named
aware
later.
of it before it's being publicized too much. We'll at least know before.
We want to be sure they agree.
Sure, absolutely.
Just correspond with me.
Okay.
Okay.
I will.
All right. Any more questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Eric Krebs.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name's Aaron Krebs. I'm with the Warner Law Firm out of Panama City, and we've been representing the county in a lawsuit that was filed last year entitled Rodney Roussall versus Jackson County Board of County Commissioners and Sean Woods individually. This was filed in the Northern District of Florida, federal court, and we have been ongoing the litigation with this for a while. Just a background, Mr. Roussall was an inmate on pretrial detention at the Jackson County Jail. Another inmate threw boiling water on him. He sustained significant burns, actually had to be air flighted to a burn hospital in Athens, Georgia. In the course of this, the individual that threw the water onto Mr. Roussall was convicted of that, and he's in prison in DOC currently. Mr. Roussall was released from the jail. He did plea out to some probation on the initial charges he was in for, which I believe were some theft charges, petty theft charges. In the meantime, he sued the county for negligence as well as some federal claims related to indifferent, deliberate indifference, medical care, and deliberate indifference of security. There were plenty of, we feel that there were a lot of defenses to the federal claims, but there were some questions of liability as to the negligence claim. So in that respect, we, through ongoing discovery, including depositions of Mr. Rusaw, depositions of all of the county workers at the jail, and others that were involved in this, we were able to, through mediation in April, come to a resolution pending the board's approval. They have agreed to accept $200,000, which is the cap for the state claims, in exchange for dismissing the lawsuit. In fact, Florida Association Counties Trust also is paying for the mediation costs that occurred in April. We feel this is a good settlement. It resolves a lot of potential issues. The fact of the matter is that this was going to go to trial. It was going to take a while. First, there was still a significant amount of discovery that had to be done. There were going to be motions for summary judgment to try to eliminate the federal claims. If that was the case, obviously that takes time and money. And we didn't think that at the end of the day, this eventually would have gotten the negligence claims kicked out at summary judgment. So this was going to go to trial, either in state court or in federal court at some point. At that time, they would have obviously introduced the pictures that show pretty gruesome injuries to Mr. Rusaw, and the questions of negligence being a pretty low standard as opposed to a criminal standard. We thought that this settlement is in the best interest of the county and everybody involved. So at this point, we would like to get the board's approval for this settlement. And we've already had the release signed by Mr. Rusaw, and the Florida Association of Counties Trust is also in agreement with the settlement.
Commissioner Hill?
When did this happen? I'm unfamiliar with this case.
This happened in November 25th of 2018 was the incident.
When, what day?
November 25th of 2018, it was a Sunday. And it happened right after lunch. Through a series of unfortunate events, Mr. Rusaw actually, I don't want to get too deep into the facts on this, but a series of events that happened that day led to this incident. He didn't seem to be the instigator. He seemed to be and no matter the liability of the county, he seemed to be an innocent individual in this case, but he was in the county's care.
Has our issues that we had liability or risk analysis to, has it been addressed and fixed?
Yes, sir.
And the settlement involved here and the release, of course, the county is not admitting any kind of liability related to this. It is purely a way to remove this from potential litigation in the future. Again, with the risk of the federal claims, if they were to go forward, there was also attorney's fees that the fact wouldn't have covered. Those would have been substantial.
So in this agreement, what happens to the federal claims?
They're dismissed. The case gets dismissed completely.
Okay.
This is just a monetary settlement to pay for all claims. He's going to be responsible for any liens that he had for medical care out of his portion. His attorney's fees will take their fees out of his portion. So there's not going to be any additional fees related to the county. All the county would pay would be their deductible. This settlement will be paid directly through Florida Association of Counties Trust.
What is that deductible cost? What is it?
$10,000 deductible.
I'll offer a motion that the county agree with the settlement.
Do we don't need anything, do we?
Yes.
Do we?
Yeah, we have to have a
It's
motion.
second.
We have a
Sorry.
motion by Commissioner Donifro. We have a question by.
I do have 5 copies of the release that we can have. It's the typical release that has already been signed by Mr. Rusaw and his attorney, Murray Matt.
That's all right.
Thank you.
And the main, and I apologize.
Have you seen this, Michelle?
I have, I've reviewed that and I do recommend that you accept the settlement.
Thank you. Commissioner McKinney, did you have a question?
Yes, do we have sworn statements by the correction officers on duty or staff?
Do we have sworn statements? Well, the depositions were taken of those that were employed at the time that witnessed the event. We do have videos of the event when it happened. What led up to this is unfortunately Mr. Russos appeared to have overslept lunch. He went to get additional food. The person that had taken additional food thought that he had snitched on him. Those are his, from the lawsuit. And they got into sort of a yelling match. Everything seemed to have calmed down. There was a threat of a knife, of a shank to Mr. Russos. So he contacted the staff of the jail. They locked everything down, did a search, couldn't find anything. After that was lifted, that as Mr. Russos got his food and was waiting to heat it up, the individual threw the water on him, took some water that had been heated up in the microwave and threw it on his face. So it was immediate. Within a minute, they were removed. They were taken out. He was looked at for medical care, and overnight, his injuries got worse. And so the next morning, he was immediately taken to the Jackson County Hospital. He was then released because they had to fly him to Athens, Georgia, for the burn center, and they released him from care. Actually, the circuit court released him so that the corrections officer didn't have to actually go with him to Georgia. So there have been depositions taken of everybody. Yeah, and the question is, should they have removed them after the lockdown? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Thank you, sir. I second.
I have a second by Commissioner Hill. Any more questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for your time, and it's very nice to be here since it's been fixed. I haven't been here in about a couple of months. So it's
Well,
very nice.
Hopefully it'll get better. All right, moving along, the consent agenda items. Everyone should have a copy of the consent agenda items and should have had a chance to review them. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Pate to approve the consent agenda items and a second by Commissioner Hill. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Sheriff Edenfield.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Chairman. First and foremost, thank you for allowing me to bring this request before you. We're requesting board approval of budget amendment in the amount of $126,432 for the coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant, which I'm requesting to keep $29,737.46 in grant reimbursements from expenditures made in the previous fiscal year.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hill, a second by Commissioner Donifro. Any questions? So the $29,000, where are we going to get that money?
This is an FDLE grant. That,
Oh, this is a grant from FDLE?
right. And
Okay.
what it done was some of the money that's reimbursed is for overtime.
Okay,
And the reimbursement is overtime that was incurred in the previous fiscal year.
okay.
And our intentions is to use the funds to finance our IT department
Okay.
until the new budget.
All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Chief Bruner?
Good morning.
Morning.
I have a request for board approval and authorize chairman to sign an affiliation agreement between Jackson County Board of County Commissioners, Fire Rescue Department, and Chipola College. This is to allow the EMT, paramedic, and nursing students to complete clinical hours in our department as part of their training. We've had an agreement. It's older than 5 years. They just requested we bring it back to the board. There were no changes noted. They just wanted an updated agreement.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hill,
Second.
second by Commissioner McKinney. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rhett.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
First item I have for you is just a little update. I was asked to do some brainstorming about some mill pond management activities in the next year or two. So been talking with FWC as far as the hydrilla and the eelgrass and all the things that are going on out there. And a couple of things that we put together was to actually hire a contractor to go out and do 2 cuttings per year. One will be late fall, early summer. Late spring, early summer, kind of before the season, and then probably no one mid-year around 4th of July or somewhere like that. The main goal is going to be to create a navigable pathway for boats to get up and down the pond. And then also what we're looking at doing is removing the old grass carp that are in the pond that have been determined not to be effective due to their age and the amount that they eat. So we're going to remove those and then try to do a new stock of grass carp. The idea is to get a better rotation on the grass carp to help manage. They primarily do manage the hydrilla, the eelgrass, and some of the other vegetation, not so much. I did go a couple weeks ago and ride around. There's very little hydrilla out there right now. There were a couple of areas that we had noticed prior to the drawdown that were pretty extensive. FWC asked me to do a site check, and I did, and found very little to none. I don't know if that's attributed to the drawdown or just changing water conditions, but anyway, a lot less than there was at the end of last year.
How wide is the channel you're thinking of cutting? Rick?
So we'll be looking 20 to 30 foot. So the cutter machine is 10 foot wide. So he could do down and back and have a 20-foot path. The only thing that we haven't accounted for yet is if we want to mark the channel, to keep boats within a certain limit, or just to cut the path and let them find it. The primary problem is obviously with boat traffic, the propellers are getting caught up in the grass and whatnot. One advantage to the type of machine that the contractor has is it actually removes the vegetation that is cut. So it's got a conveyor that'll get out of the water. Now, obviously there'll be some trimmings and clippings that get away from them, but the majority of the mass of grass will be completely removed and will have to be offloaded on the shore and then hauled to a designated drop zone.
But they'll be responsible for taking it and disposing it.
It depends. We can do it 2 ways. Obviously, we can pay for it to happen, or we could try to utilize some of our in-house. I mean, they could literally convey it over to a dump truck and haul it to one of our pits, and then it can be dried out and then later burned or, just spread out. So we got a couple options as far as that. The cutting alone the quote was $10,500. And that is estimated to be a week's worth of work. So he just got a day rate. And that's, 5 days is what he's expecting.
Commissioner Hill.
So what for 10.5, how wide is he gonna cut? Just as wide as it can?
That'll be the 20 foot, the down and back.
2 passes. Right.
Right.
Just 2 passes.
And so a couple different things.
So he's gonna be out there 5 days?
This is based on the entirety of the mill pond, the full length of the pond. Now, obviously, the majority of the grass situation is going to be on the spring end, not so much on the dam end. So once we get, a little ironed out on the details, we'll actually go out, map exactly what area we want him to cut. If we, shorten the distance, then we can get a wider path, you know what I'm saying? So we can try to maximize our days of work there.
I know last year I was out on the pond and it was a mess.
It does get bad.
Actually, if we don't do something, we're going to lose another one of our crown jewels for Jackson County. We've lost Lake Seminole.
Could he do this? Well, can he do this in Lake Seminole?
Sure.
He could. So I do need to add, there will be a FWC permit needed to remove this vegetation from the mill pond, as it's a FWC managed waterway. So it's a free permit. We can apply. We would apply as the managing entity, not the contractor. So we would apply on behalf of the contractor, and then they would do the labor or do the work.
We're certified to put that stuff in our pits. I know there's some of our pits are designated.
That it's not considered a hazardous material or anything like that.
It's not
So
invasive species
yeah,
to dry land.
and it won't grow once it's deposited on dry land. So it's not-
This is a cutting though. It's not, I had talked to somebody, it's been a while, about actually having a device that would actually pull that stuff up by the roots. But
So that's when you really get into the weeds as far as the core permits and dread permits. When you go below the surface of the bottom of the lake pond, whatever, that's when you really get into the weeds as far as the permitting and all that sort of stuff. So
So move,
the
Mr. Chairman.
2 cuttings a year is kind of what we're looking at.
And these funds will come, I think, out of TDC funds.
That's what we had proposed. Obviously, you know,
If you want to question anybody about the number of out-of-town visitors, talk to Ernie Patchett.
Yeah.
He tells me every time that he's out there on his dock, he's talking to people paddleboard. We've got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Donifro. Any more questions?
Well, yeah, whoa.
Motion to.
Motion to
Motion to
approve
accept
the
the 10-5.
request to,
Just the one cutting?
One cutting.
Give him a
20.
report.
Yeah,
Pardon?
he's giving a
He was just
report.
giving
this
a
was just,
report.
this
Oh,
was
I
just an
thought you did a
update.
motion for the 10-5 that's
Yeah.
wide.
I didn't create the item, I'm sorry. So that was kind of misleading. So this is just to let you know what we have
Oh, okay.
proposed. The idea is to work this through budget. So this price is based on a 3-year contract. So if we do it just a one time a year, price goes up. So what we're looking at is, you know, due to the cost, look at during budget and say, if we want to proceed and we'll execute a 3-year contract, 2 cuts a year or whatever, and then proceed from there.
So in other words, that price is based on 2 cuts per year for 3 years.
This 10-5 is 1 cut on 3 year, but based on my experience, when we mow the swimming area, it takes 2 a year. So just to be more thorough, it would take 2. So then you're looking at possibly 21,000 a year for 3 years. So that's, I mean, that's climbing up.
are
on the dollar
you
amounts.
going to do the swimming area?
Yes, we
I'll have the
maintain that
contractor do it.
separately. Well, we do that in-house. Obviously, we have to work a little bit harder because we don't have near the equipment he does, but that's something a little bit separate than just the main navigable.
Do we know how much that machine is? I mean, I'm gonna say it's probably very expensive. I know there's a guy from Valdosta, Georgia, that was supposed to do Silver Lake.
That's this guy.
That guy, okay.
Yep.
He was really reasonable according to the ones that before it
Right.
started up to a hornet's nest.
So-
He was reasonable, so I didn't know if there was some way we could look at.
Well, and due to the price, this was something that we would need to get quotes. I was just asked to kind of seek out some
Oh, yeah, that's fine
ideas.
now. I
So
just wonder if we
that's-
could look at the price of a machine, because we have Lake Seminole, and we also have Blue Springs on there, we're going to have
Right.
and some other places, so if that's.
I want to say the type of machine he has is $100,000,
Oh, yeah,
something
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
What was the fellow's name again? Just,
Justin Stone,
Justin.
Stone's Aquatic Vegetation.
I think that machine you told me has a conveyor belt on it so that you can
Yeah.
pull up to the shore and
When you
Dump
think
it.
about it, on the long term, our problems are never going away.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they're going just the opposite. I mean, Lake Seminole's to the point that you can't even egress in there.
That's right.
In some places. So if it's an investment for the county and we can do it, I'd like to also look at, maybe,
Okay.
just look at the price. of the
budget
farm.
bring us the price of the
Yeah, I
machine.
mean, $20,000 a year payment on, I mean, just to do it twice, and we can look at it. And there might be some TDC funds or some other stuff or some type of grant we can get from them.
Thank you, Rhett.
Yes, sir. So I got a few more items coming up after this. Go ahead and knock
So
it out.
that, so that would, no motion needed on that, one, that was just.
No.
information.
Agree
Okay.
motion with-
All right, I just want to info.
That was just a report, let you know what we got in the works.
Who's
And I've
the
been in
second?
contact with FWC through the whole process.
Did you second that?
He
I did
seconded
second
it,
it.
so we
Yeah, I rescind mine.
withdraw it, no motion.
Six that we got, huh?
Paul,
Yeah.
I did.
all right, go ahead, Mr. Daniels.
All right, so secondly, I have a request for board authorization or board approval for work authorization for road survey services for Bump Nose, New Salem, Cypress, Collins, and Shiloh. This will be through Southeastern Survey. and our
Got a
contract
motion
survey.
by Commissioner Pake, second by Commissioner Hill. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries
All right.
5-0.
Secondly, is board approval of CEI services for All-Day Howell to work on Longview Road under the continuous services
So moved,
contract.
Chairman.
This will be a FDOT project.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner McKinney. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, and thirdly is board approval to award Longview Road to Anderson Columbia. They were the lowest bidder, in the amount of $579,110.50. This is a FDOT project.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner McKinney. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
All right. Hunter Potts.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
The first item I have is requesting board issuance of notice of award for the sale bid of 2021-20, the surplus aircraft to the highest bid offer and approved budget amendment, allowing the sheriff's office to receive the sale of funds.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Donifro. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Sheriff's getting a lot of money this morning. Okay, Hunter.
Okay, next item is board approval of a single source vendor for the Blue Springs dock installation costs. So if you'll remember, we brought the actual dock materials to you a couple meetings ago, and it saved us about 3 weeks on time getting the dock materials and about $2,000 overall in the cost.
Okay,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, this is,
Okay, Hunter.
next item is board approval of a change order number 1 and certificate of final completion for the repairs to the Ag Center main show arena. And so the change order is just for additional contract days. We're asking for 45 additional days, so that way there's no issues with the contract there, and also to authorize final payment from finance.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner McKinney. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Next, Mr. Fox.
Yes, board approval of certificate of final completion for the repairs done to the fire rescue pole barn.
A motion by Commissioner Pate, second by Commissioner Hill. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. So we're skipping 12 and 13, and we're going to 14.
Okay, it should be the Road and Bridge Building.
That's correct.
So we received 5 bids in the project, and so after reviewing it with our architect, we recommend awarding to the low bidder and company CPWG the amount of $1,390,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a couple of.
Go ahead.
Real quickly, just, why are we, is this the contract, the sample form of contract? Is this what we're being asked to approve?
So that is part of the contract, yes.
Part of it.
Where are all the exhibits? Because that's the meat of the contract.
So that would be, so I can get them to you, but I didn't put them on there because it would be so many pages. So like all of the plans, the bid documents, specs and everything, that's like 400 or 500 pages. So we didn't include it in the agenda as an attachment.
Is there a reason we don't use the IA document for a project like this? For a contract? Seems like it's a simpler contract and you don't have all the exhibits that you have to do. I mean, Michelle, can you weigh in on that? For building projects, the IA document seems to be a more appropriate contract and may not be the case for engineering type.
That's the FEMA contract.
So I guess because this is a FEMA project, FEMA provided this document.
Oh, FEMA did?
I think it's the one that Michelle, you got.
Let's go with it. FEMA supplied it. We don't want to get crossways with them.
And the low bidder was CWPG?
Yeah, based out of Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
CPWG.
We ever done any work with them?
We have not. This will be the first project we've done with them.
They met all the bid requirements there.
They did everything, meet specifications, and it does some other good projects. See from their website and everything, so they come pretty highly recommended.
Hunter, how much are we going to have to put into this?
So from what we see now, I think our cost is going to be, should be an item there, the third item. So like worst case scenario, would put like $67,000.
$67,902.98.
Yes.
Okay.
I was just going to add that the contracts we use for FEMA projects, back when Judy was the purchasing agent, she took those through a process to get them approved through legal and through the FEMA criteria. And this is what this should be. We have a standard contract when it comes to a FEMA project that we use.
Thank you.
All right.
What's the build out time on this?
Don't know, have to work that out with them, but I
I mean,
think
what the contract read, I hope that we had that in the contract, what time they start and
it
finish.
hasn't been finalized yet.
Well, one of the things I noticed in here was, I think it was this contract reading through it, was $100 per day for liquidated damages LDs. That's a very small amount for Is that correct?
That is correct. That's a standard amount we've used in the past.
I mean, that's the way it was bid, so we can't.
So Hunter, why would there not be a date of construction, date of completion date in a contract? We're approving something they can take, they already been assigned the contract.
So we're asking you to award to award it to them. So
But if it's not in the contract, then they can start when they want to.
So he's asking for y'all to award it, and then we'll negotiate the terms of the contract. He just included the sample contract for your convenience to kind of see, but those terms will be brought to you to be approved.
yeah, typically with a lot of this,
That's how we normally do this.
yeah, with a lot of smaller projects, like say the Ag Center, pole barn or some, or yeah, the pole barn or something, we already know it's going to take maybe 3 months or something. This is a lot larger project, and a lot larger dollar amount, so it's a little more complex. So we'll take it back to them, kind of negotiate their timeline and everything, and bring the contract back to you.
The bid document should have spelled that out prior to the bid. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they've given them 6 months. So
So if all of that is in there on the front end, we will bring that back. We're not asking you to approve this contract if that stuff
I
is
thought
not
that's
in
what-
there. This is awarding the project.
The bid,
Right.
because that's your motion.
Yeah. I just, if they come back with a ridiculous number or time to do it, then are they still awarded this bid? I don't want to be holding to them on that part, is my
Right.
point. I mean, because, and the reason is the market right now is high demand for contractors, GCs included, on the commercial side. If we approve this and they come back and say, we won't get it to 2023, we've already approved it for them to have it.
I didn't know it, when we had to negotiate, like the initial pre-construction meeting and everything, I think the timeline, we said start basically right when it's awarded, within 30 days of the award,
Right.
and then continue basically within a year's time. We spelled that out. But it hasn't been
But
officially
it's
finalized
in the
yet.
meet, this contract is something we can rely back on if they say, no, we don't start in 2023.
No, it's, the contract is, the bid documents state that it's going to start as soon as it's awarded.
the bid documents, the specifications should have an item in there that says they've got to complete this
Can you
project
pull them
within so
up?
many calendar days.
I can't.
So we technically were asking the agenda to award the pre-approved FEMA contract, but all of that information should be spelled out in the bid documents, but we'll verify that.
Should be.
Typically, though, we do bring it to award it, and then we bring the contract back once we've had a chance. But it's fine to do it this way if everything's spelled out in the bid.
So if,
It actually
So your
speeds the
motion
process
is to
up.
approve them as the low
Subject
bidder.
to the date being negotiated. I don't want to get in a situation that they tell us it's a date. I want to say, I mean, to me, it'd be easy. You start construction within 30 days of bid award, or you're on site, or you have some presence there. But if you, I mean, they could easily, because of demand right now, they could probably easily put this out till much later than we anticipated. And it's already been, almost 3 years.
So it's like a couple hundred pages, so it'll take me a few minutes to find
Oh,
it.
that's fine.
If you want to come back to it.
Yeah, if you will, let's table this if y'all don't mind, just.
all right, we'll table it
We also
later
have-
on.
So you had a motion and a second, don't you have to withdraw the motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion on that.
Second. Who second?
But what, let me ask the question, why we want to table it? All we're doing is awarding the bid.
Yeah, but the bid is,
But you don't know what the rest of these guys would do either.
well, I know that, but if we're awarded the warning, or any of them, especially with the demand right now, if we're not careful, they can just say, okay, I'll build it for that cost. But if
I know what you're saying there, but the contract hasn't been signed, right? They're gonna bring
Well,
the
this is to
contract
approve the
back to us.
contract, but this
No,
is-
this is
to
award
bid.
the bid to.
It can be either one. If y'all want to just give him a minute, he can give y'all the specifications, and you technically can go ahead and approve the contract, and that would
That's what
speed
I-
this up if you're comfortable with the terms.
Yeah.
The bid
Yeah,
document.
Well,
but I
if-
said I wouldn't table it.
If we,
because
if
I just
there's,
table it just, I mean, we have the meeting after this one. I'll
yeah,
table it
we're
to.
going to a special meeting.
The FEMA approved.
But if
These
we,
are the pre-approved FEMA contracts that
I mean,
you,
if we give them the bids, did they look at it, are they in the loop?
he works with FEMA every week. They talk about this building.
So what I
I'm-
what I
if
recommend
you're-
now, if you guys want to, I would just recommend awarding the project to them, and we'll bring you the contract back.
If we award it to them and then they come back with a contract that's not suitable on timeframe, then we can void this
We
motion.
can, but they won't do that.
They won't?
They won't do that. But we can, I would say just recommend awarding it to them, bringing back the contract, everything will be official. And that way, there's any questions, I can see you guys the scope and everything.
Michelle, you all right with that?
Yeah, I mean, if the cable contract was in the bid, they are bound by those terms. So there's no more negotiating to happen.
But that'll come back before this board.
Yes.
When it's- Okay, very good. I'll make that motion with accept it then, subject on legal advice.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Hill.
So we already had a motion by.
Yeah, I was
Commissioner
saying- I
Hill
was
and
saying-
a
And he
second by-
withdrew it.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, I
Now we're
that.
back at it.
Right. So it's.
All right, is there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second by Commissioner McKinney. Any more questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, I'll bring you the sign, or the contract back next board meeting.
Yeah, if you get a chance while you're sitting out there, maybe you can pull up and answer some of the questions. Okay. Hunter, you have another one.
This is, rejecting the bids to Sweet Pond Road. We only got one bid back on there. It's, as it is a FEMA project, you need at least 2 or 3, so we're gonna have to rebid this one.
And we only got, would you make sure that Anderson knows why we are rejecting this bid? They are aware? Okay.
How come we don't, I mean, it's a pretty decent size. Is it just that hard to get paving contractors to bid these now, or is
So busy.
They're busy.
They're busy.
All of them are covered up.
Baxter's didn't?
Make-
end it?
I'll make a motion to reject the bid
Second.
on Sweet Pond Road,
And go back out for bid, right?
go out for bid.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Pate, second by Commissioner Hill. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, Ms. Carlin?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This item requests board approval to set the budget meeting workshop dates for fiscal year 21-22. The dates requested begin Monday, July 26th through Thursday, July 29th, and Monday, August 2nd through Thursday, August 5th. And Mr. Rooks, who is a thorough agenda reader, did identify that I have noted here that August 3rd is moved night meeting to a day meeting. That should actually be Tuesday, July 27th on here. So we'd also like the board to approve moving that to a day meeting.
Any questions?
One more thing, we need Tuesday, August 3rd to be a special meeting to set the proposed.
The millage rate?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, and that's to set the special meeting
Yeah. and-
plus to
and-
change the 27th. Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Donifro. Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
What time was the special meeting set for on the 3rd?
If we want to put budget workshop at 9 and then do 11 for the special meeting.
Well, how
And
about
we'll
we,
just continue in budget meeting after that. And if we don't do it at 11, we're still okay. We
This
just
is
need to
on-
notice it.
so that's just on the
August
special meeting,
3rd.
August the 3rd.
Yeah.
What, that's,
We're going to change that to the 9 a.m.
yeah, that's
I think we will have a budget workshop starting at 9 and we'll say a special meeting at 11.
Okay,
But you'll be able to continue.
Yeah, that's
right. Okay.
August 3rd, 9 and 11.
Yeah, 9 and 11.
Okay,
The 27th, we should put as 10 following the regular meeting.
Say it one more time, Danielle.
The 27th, we'll say 10 o'clock to follow the regular meeting.
okay. Item 17. Who has that?
Christie Andreessen.
Good morning, board.
Morning.
This item is an approval of a marketing agreement with Visit Florida for a special discounted rate with a commercial for our RAO. It's a shared branding package package that's at a discounted rate. So usually, I think it's 10,000, but we get it for 2,500. This would have to be retroactively approved by the TDC. It's one of the, kind of like a quick agreement that Visit Florida had pop up available to us that hasn't been able to go to them. But for us to be able to participate in the program, we had to have a commitment by this week. So I'm bringing it to y'all for
What was the
approval.
amount, Chris?
It's 2,500 and they'll match the other 7,500.
And that's coming out of TDC?
Yes,
So
sir.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hill,
Second.
second by Commissioner Pate. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank y'all. I also need chairman's signature if possible. Like.
Bring it up here, I'll sign it.
I don't, it's actually, it's electronic. It's in
Well,
email.
Hunter will take care of it.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Rhett?
All right, now I have a request for board approval of change order 1 for District 1 Bump Nose and Valley Oak paving projects. This will be a reduction in cost by 30,000. So we reduced the linear foot to bring it back from 162 to the Baker Creek Bridge.
Is that the project that went over budget?
Yes, yes.
And you're just trying to get it in budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
correct.
So move.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner McKinney, second by Commissioner Hill. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, and secondly, on this round, I have board approval of CEI services for DHM to be working on Mockingbird Road.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hill,
Just a paving project? Yes, so Scott.
second
Yes, sir.
by Commissioner Pate. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you much.
Hunter?
You guys already remember the item. There you go.
Number 20.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, we already done that.
Oh, that's true, we did.
That was just info. There was no motion on that, right?
No.
Besides what we did.
Okay. Ms. Wendy? Hang on one second, Wendy. Sandy, were you going to give us a briefing? Well, I don't want to hold you up if you wanted to do a quick briefing. Wendy, can you wait a minute and let her come up and talk to us? I know you're a busy lady.
Well,
I mean, you managed to stomp down COVID in Jackson County, so.
we're getting there. We're getting there. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. So the rundown today for COVID-19 cases, we are at 6,327 total to date. But the number that we like to watch is the 28. We are currently monitoring 28 active cases in Jackson County. And as you know, that got above 300 at one point. We were happy below 100. So 28 is really remarkable. We have 2 people currently in the hospital. We have one of those on a ventilator. Both of those are community members, not from a long-term care facility. We've had a total of 159 deaths. Our current number vaccinated for ages 12 and older is 34% of our population, 34% ages 12 and older, and 66% of ages 65 and older. Our current positivity rate is 5%, well below the target of 10% positive. And the biggest thing I wanted to tell you is the general citizenry, fully vaccinated, can go back to normal activities pre-pandemic, according to the CDC. That's different for healthcare providers, so still recommending masks. I know that some restaurants are still doing social distancing. They can do what they want. I'm just giving you the CDC recommendation. You can go back to pre-pandemic activities if you are fully vaccinated, which is defined as 2 weeks after 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson or 2 weeks after 2 doses of Moderna or Pfizer vaccine. The health department is finished with their drive-through operations. We still have Moderna vaccine, but as of today, our operations are going to be in-house Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings from 9 to 11. You can call for an appointment or go on myvaccine.fl to make an appointment for those. There are vaccines readily available in the community. At CVS, they have Pfizer for ages 12 plus. You can register on cvs.com for that. They also do antibody testing and COVID testing at CVS. Also, Walmart has Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and Winn-Dixie has Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And as you know, as a public health department, what we do is fill the gaps when it's not available in our community. We've done that, and so we will start to back out of that as that becomes more readily available in our community. We do anticipate the health department will finish up the Moderna vaccine we have on hand, and so at least through the first week in July, and then we'll readdress as we see what demand is for us. I anticipated a question about booster shots, and frankly, it is unknown whether or not we may need a booster shot. The talk is that perhaps a year after your initial vaccination, much like the flu shot, but we really just don't know. We don't have that information yet. That's all I have for now. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Well, we appreciate all that the health department has done with this, because it's been tough, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I appreciate you all, and I'm glad to get back to some kind of normal activities. Yes, sir.
So Cindy, real quick, do you think you've kind of reached a plateau now as far as the percentages go, or do you think you'll still see?
We're actually on a decline. We hit a plateau many months ago. Once we got to about, we were hitting about 40% vaccinated and 65 plus, and we took a deep dive in the number of deaths, and we really went out to those long-term care facilities, and that's where we had our problems, and got to that population first, and it really did help.
I guess my question is really as far as the number of vaccinations, the number of people vaccinated.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, we are plateauing. Now, my view is, we were the only game in town for some time. So as you know, it was quite the big operation. Well, now that you can get vaccines more readily available other places, I'm not convinced it's really a decline. It's a decline for me, certainly, because people can go other places. But yes, it does appear that people who wanted to be vaccinated probably are vaccinated. There are others who have immunity because they had COVID and they're getting antibody testing. They're checking that. And then there's others who simply will not be vaccinated one way or another. So it does seem to be that we're winding down on demand for vaccines.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you, Ms. Sandy. Tell everyone out there we appreciate their help.
I will. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Wendy.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a request to set a public hearing for a general development order for Partners for Pets to construct an animal adoption center and shelter. The total impervious area of the buildings will be 12,612 square feet. And this will be at the intersection of Pelt Street and Panhandle Road.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Donifro. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that will be a public hearing for June 22nd at 6:15 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you. 6:05. Thank you. Okay, the next one is to request board approval for a temporary use permit for the event known as Freedom Springs Triathlon to be held at Blue Springs Recreation Park on July 3rd between the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner McKinney. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Next is yours also.
Yes, sir. And the final item is board review of the film and motion picture ordinance. This is for motion photography and filming that takes place in the county via motion picture, television, videotape, film production. And if you see fit, also asking to set a public hearing for June 22nd.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate, and I got questions.
Yes.
Why are we doing this?
because we have a lot of companies come in that are filming in our area. I am not the expert on the
We're getting a lot of
line,
filming in Jackson.
well, not a lot, but I think Miss Christie.
Yeah. Currently, we don't have a process to screen who it is, what they are, where it's being posted and stuff like that. We oftentimes get requests to use places such as Blue Springs. Oftentimes, you know, if they're using pyro, we need to make sure fire and rescue's involved. So there's some some aspects that need to be considered before people come in and just start.
Okay.
It impacts traffic, things like that.
So what are we considering them doing this for? I mean, are you saying they had to be commercial licensed to do this? Or, I mean, who are we saying, if I want to go out there with my camera and start filming, do I have to, I mean,
It does say.
right, I understand that. Yeah, we did it because of the people doing Spring Creek or something one time, wasn't it?
Really what we're doing is bringing our current rules kind of into this time where you have bloggers, YouTubers coming in and videoing and we need to be able to.
Can we control that?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, you can.
I walk out there and start filming with my phone.
Yeah.
You can control it.
If you're filming just for your own personal.
No, I'm
use,
gonna put it on, post it.
well, then you're in the business of filming and you need to get the proper licensing for that.
There needs to be some rules, because we
Yeah.
had a situation.
Did you review
where we
this?
I did, and I compared it to multiple communities across the state, and it's consistent with much larger communities.
Who's gonna be the one vetting, the ones that says, yes, you can and no, you can't? Who's gonna be vetting that?
Your staff.
Mhm. So this will be much like the temporary use permits that we do, very similar. We will also run it by each of the departments that are involved, like Recs Department, Road and Bridge, Fire Rescue, Sheriff's Office. It will run through all those departments and we'll come back with a recommendation to the board.
I have a lot of questions and I don't want to take up a lot of time on the board right now because I think we need to talk. If you're going to schedule it for a public hearing, that's fine, but I see a lot of things in here that I can take up the board's time if y'all
That's
want.
what we'll
I do have one
discuss
more
at the
question.
public hearing.
Huh?
That's why we set a public
Yeah.
hearing
I know.
to discuss it.
Discuss it. Because. Yes, Ms. Daniels.
I just wanted to remind the board, especially for the two new commissioners, that this came up as a result of a request that was not necessarily favorable to the county. It wasn't going to shed the county in a positive light, not the county, but the activities that were going to take place on the video, on the filming. And so it really came to light that we needed some kind of criteria, or otherwise you don't have anything to base denying someone on if it is, you know, something you wouldn't want to highlight, in a way you wouldn't want to highlight Jackson County. So, you know, through a number of things, some overturning community, anyway, we got back on track. And so there was a committee formed. I just wanted y'all to know the history on what's gone into bringing the recommendation. So the Sheriff's Office, Community Development, TDC, RET was involved, a number of departments to look at it from a full view of what would we need in an ordinance. And so I would actually recommend you not set a public hearing if you just want to have an overall discussion on it, because otherwise you just have to keep advertising public hearings if you substantially change what's in the ordinance. So if y'all just want to set a discussion time and then set your public hearing, then that keeps you from advertising multiple times to take action.
Well, I got several issues. Number one, I think we have to be very careful with the First Amendment here. I think we may be setting ourselves up for some problems, but then I just don't want to go into all of my questions right now unless the board wants to indulge me for about an hour.
You done?
Huh?
No.
Well, I definitely think that there is a need for some type of process to be set up.
I've
I'm
not had a
not,
chance.
I'm not saying we don't need something, but I see things in here that raises concern to me.
Why don't you bring your things up with Joanne?
I will. At a later date. Out of the, after the.
So I
school
think
board
today
table.
we just need direction on if you want to set a public hearing or not.
Yeah, we set a public hearing. Well, I made a motion. I didn't get a second.
You
Yeah, you did get a second.
Who was the second?
Substantially change what they're presenting.
Who? Hey, okay, I didn't write that, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, date,
But they were saying that if we're gonna change it.
I think there's some changes that need to be made.
Yeah, look.
This, instead of just public hearing, let's set a special meeting to discuss it.
Okay.
I'll change my motion and have a special meeting. What's the date? Yes, let's do it during the next board meeting, which would be nighttime. It's just 6:15. What's the date? What's the next board meeting?
You want to discuss it in the middle of a regular meeting?
Before,
We can do it before. I don't mind.
well, we're gonna set it for like 5 in the afternoon. For a special meeting to discuss it.
Okay, all right. 5 o'clock on what date was that, Wendy?
June 22nd.
All right. A motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Fred, have we got anybody waving their hands?
Anybody that would like to speak, you can raise your hand via the raise hand feature on Zoom or via *9 if you're called in via telephone.
And while we're waiting for that, Sheriff, do you have anything?
As long as it's not asking for more money.
No more money for you. You've got all you get today.
Now that you mentioned money, we had the weekend, the opening weekend of the Creek, Memorial Day weekend, and there were lots of visitors.
Good.
Rhett and I met at lunch yesterday, and I gave him some ideas that some of my staff, some recommendations they would maybe recommend to make it better, safer. This was the very first day at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. About 12 grown men exits the creek at Magnolia and begins to go at it. So that was a little excitement on the first day. So we sort of rectified that with additional staff on that end in the afternoon, because that's usually where the action.
Did they get to spend the night in the Jackson County Hilton?
Nah, we didn't think that was moved to that level.
They just shook hands really hard, right?
Yeah, and we've interviewed for several of our school resource deputy positions, and in the middle of backgrounds of about a dozen. So we're,
Where are you on your regular road deputy staff? Are you up to
we
speed?
may have one vacancy. We have we've hired since January probably 8 or 9.
Good.
And they're good candidates.
Are you getting
The only
people
problem
coming?
with that is we have about 8 in FTO right now, which that's we're going through some growing pains. Obviously, when they're in FTO, they're with another deputy, so they're sort of shattered. But anyway, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Are you getting anyone coming from larger departments?
I won't say we're all we've took people from, but we've taken a few from other agencies around.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, did anyone raise their hand?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, do you have anything? Luann?
I do not.
Mr. Donifro? Mr. Hill?
I do. One thing, Malone volunteers contacted me last night and asked, they, I guess, contacted finance through someone about them, they're needing to repair an engine, and they have $15,000 in their account. Make a motion to set that for repair of their engine.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner, motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate.
So they do have the money.
Yeah, they get it.
So I did ask them to provide a letter to the chief and get him included, because the whole $15,000 is not what they need for just the engine repair. They were gonna ask for some additional items, so we will make sure that that has been provided to Chief Bringer.
Okay.
And then we'll approve.
Okay.
We'll release it.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Anything else, Commissioner Hill? Commissioner Fay?
We have a special meeting after this.
Yes, we
And
do.
what is the discussion?
Road and Bridge.
Road and Bridge.
Man,
Okay, I've got something that, I don't know how to start off, but, there's actions that this board takes. And I don't feel like they get implemented. Sort of like the landscaping thing. I know we're not through with them, but if this board says we want to highly recommend landscape, that means we shouldn't be slowing anybody down with making them jump through the hoops to do landscape. Same thing with the campers. I had a call that they were told by community development they had to get they were not allowed to live in their trailer while they built their house. And they were told they need to get a variance. Well, I thought we said that they could. So why are we making people jump through hoops when this board says that it's allowed?
So both of those items are going on the next planning commission this Monday, I believe, for public hearing, the first public hearing. And so technically, until that is officially changed with the RV, the rule still says you can't. So it would just go through a variance process.
But we changed the rule.
Well, you didn't officially until it goes through 2 public hearings.
But when the board speaks,
Yeah,
that should be it.
Is that the state law?
So that's your law. So if the
We just changed
ordinance,
it.
but the ordinance has to be changed through 2 public hearings. And Michelle can speak this better
Why-
than I can.
How long ago has that been?
What?
So we made that you made the motion or whatever, when that occurred?
Oh, we've been, what, a couple months?
Yes,
Longer than that.
So the last thing on the RV was that Commissioner Peacock wanted to look at it again, which
I did.
you did. That was the last thing in the
No, I
meeting.
went through it line by line.
Right, but we still really technically did not come from there with a resolution from the board on that ordinance. But we're taking it through the public hearing anyway, and so when it gets back to y'all again, I mean, y'all have to tell us if you're satisfied with it. the
So I
way
guess
it
the
is.
best thing to do in the future is if we make a motion, it needs an ordinance to go and sit the public
Take
meetings. And if
That's
they
right.
set the meeting that,
But that's the issue. When we do something, we draw this thing out and draw this thing out and it, I don't know. It's like we're fighting the county.
To me, it would be a lot easier if the board says you can live in your RV. We voted 5-0. Y'all figure out the paperwork to make it happen. But the next day, if I walk in there and say, I want to live in my RV, then
well, I
the
think.
board has changed it.
Yeah, well, I think that you go back, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, I agree with you, but then we need to change the process that we have,
Sure.
having 2 public meetings in. Change that and
No,
that
we
So
makes.
I
probably
think
have to
that's
do
a
that.
statute
Huh?
issue.
But
Well,
why
that's
are
what
we,
I'm saying, that's what I'm
but why are
asking.
we extending it? We're several months on
That
down the
was my
line and we
question
hadn't
when I
addressed
walked
it.
in.
Some of your ordinances require 2 public hearings, the
Okay.
land use related ordinances usually do. Other ordinances don't, they only require 1 reading, it has to be advertised 10 days prior to the meeting. But the rule is, if you adopt some regulation by resolution, you want to modify it, you have to do that by resolution. If you establish some rule by ordinance, you want to modify it, you have to do that by ordinance. And that's the state.
Right, that's
But
what
we
I was
don't
asking.
have to make somebody do all that stuff if we know the board's gonna change it.
But you,
I mean,
you haven't officially.
we got
changed
people living in
it.
campers all over this county and we're not stopping them. I don't want to say stop them, but we're making everybody else jump through hoops to do that.
So I would actually welcome this discussion with you all together, that this is where I feel like there's a challenge for staff is we do bring out something, but then there's a lot of discussion, and that's the way it should be. There's 5 different opinions on it. But if we're never given clear direction from the board and line by line, we like to joke about that. But what that leaves is a lot of uncertainty of, well, where did we leave it? Because if you go back and listen to the minutes, it's the last thing that was said was Commissioner Peacock wanted to review it again.
But that doesn't make it an official change.
But why are we extending it on out? It's just like,
I mean, if you had
we
brought it
make a
up,
decision and the county don't
Well,
want
it's unfolding.
to
It's,
do it.
it's advertised for the planning commission on Monday night. It is in the process.
So the board voted to let people live in it. I don't care what the planning commission says. The board voted.
But that's
We
your
have the
ordinance.
then we
ultimate.
need to change our ordinance.
Yeah,
The
bring-
section of what the state allows us not to, the ordinance should be changed. Or start that process. If it doesn't require state statute to back that up, then it should be over. with. That's
So
a done
if
deal.
you don't want your planning commission to give you recommendations, that's a whole nother conversation.
I don't mind them giving recommendations, but if we voted on something,
It's done.
it's done. They can meet until they turn blue in the face.
So
I'm
they've
not
met-
disagreeing with
they've
y'all.
met.
I'm just saying that's what the rule is.
They've met since we decided this. We decided, I think it was at the Ag Center,
Oh, yeah. Long
the
time ago.
Ag Complex was the last time we had that.
It was here,
discussion.
but I think it was too
Yeah,
much.
Was
here
it?
in
Because I
April.
think
We
it
did
was
have a
months
whole
ago.
day workshop
Right.
after a meeting, right? And then the last time they talked about it.
And now it's.
So the landscaping, we brought back an update, I think at the last meeting or so, maybe the one before. And she concluded her, her analysis, the lady that was gonna do the analysis, she concluded that as soon as we got that, we put that on the next planning commission meeting, which is this coming one. Just initiate that process, because that's a different one. That's your comp plan, the landscaping one. The RV is going with that, through that same process. It's not the same process, it's an easier
So it doesn't
process.
change until the comp plans change.
So a business,
Well, unless Michelle says there's a way to do it different.
Well, I'll say,
You don't have
let
to
me say
force
that, hey, let me say this real quick, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Michelle, I like you to find out what rules and guidelines we have on ordinances and changes. If there's a state statute, attach that to it. If we make that said motion, that should be brought up by y'all. And let us know. Very good. And that way, if we do not, then when it changes, it needs to be immediately changed. And then if it doesn't require an ordinance by state statute or by our policy, we can change our policy. But we can't change state statute without legislative action.
Right, the thing about the landscaping is that before you have to do your comp plan amendment before you adopt an ordinance that would be in conflict with your existing comp plan. So your landscaping ordinance right now, this is really, really technical, this is being very technical. Adopting the landscaping ordinance that makes it
Optional.
is
Highly
in
recommended.
conflict with your existing comp plan. So we have to fix the comp plan and your comp plan is the control plan is up here. Your ordinance is down here, your comp plan is up here. You gotta fix language in your comp plan in order to make your ordinance not conflict with your comp plan.
Danielle,
I have a question for Michelle. Could they authorize the land to approve a variance to anything they have voted on?
Absolutely, yes.
So we just do variances from there on. Thank you. We just.
So-
I know, why do we gotta do that?
Well, in the meantime, no, I'm saying for the meantime, you change
So
that
right
state
now, a
statute.
business comes into community development, they're required to do the landscaping thing. By what? Our comp plan, and do we have to enforce that?
no.
Yes.
We do, so we
There are
enforce
laws on the books
everything
that
in there.
all- Sheriff, do you enforce
No,
we
every
probably
law
don't.
that's on the statutes?
We don't enforce everything that's in our
Uh-huh.
comp plan. or-
You take the fifth.
Let me give you an example of how and why this is important, right? You have a potential development, and I'll use Dollar General as an example because that seems to be, we've had some contention about Dollar General lately, right? There are very, very few positions that members of the public can rely on to challenge a potential development. But one of those really big issues is whether or not the proposed development is compliant with your comp plan. If it's inconsistent with the comp plan, that is absolutely something that folks can stand on legally to challenge potential development. So I'm asking you not to put yourself in a position where potential development could be legally challenged on the basis of this is inconsistent with your comp plan. So that's.
So we need to take aim at the comp plan, is what we need to do.
That's what we're doing. We're
Right,
changing the
that's
comp
what
plan,
we
but
do.
the comp plan amendment it just takes time. I'm sorry you can't do this one.
Who dictates the time on the meeting? Is it our meetings every 2 weeks or is it by state statute?
The comp plan
Yes.
amendment,
The state statute ordinance, right?
It's a
Yes.
statute-driven process.
All right, and do they have a time frame that we must, is it every 2 weeks we had to meet to get it changed? Is it 3 public hearings every 2 weeks based on our meeting schedule or what?
It's not on y'all's at all. It's based on
So the very first one will go to planning commission and then y'all, and then we'll send it to the state for an initial review, which I think is like a 30-day process. And then you have to bring it back to final adoption, one more meeting before the board. And I think we had that out by the end of August or September. You'd have it totally through that process.
So we're talking
Let's
almost
do
a
it.
2 month, 2 month project. yeah.
Well, it's in the process. It's on Monday night.
But that's for every, but that's every isolated
For
target
the
that we hit
comp plan.
for comp plan. So if we want to change anything in the comp plan's schematics, we target that one thing and it takes maybe 2 months to do it, give or take. And then we find something else that's the same thing's gonna take another 2
Well,
months.
yes, except that every few years, and don't quote me on the years, you do an overall
Right,
look
right.
at your
It's every
comp
5
plan.
years, I think, 5 or 10.
I think it's 7, but
7.
5 to 7 years. You do, and that's your opportunity to say, okay, we don't want to take it out of item. We want to look comprehensively.
But
Where
when
are
we
with
vote,
that? Do you know?
when we vote, then they should be following our guidance.
So in the case of the RV, if Michelle says that's okay to say, we want to make a motion to give community development the authority to grant variances for every person that asks for an RV. The problem with that is when you adopt your ordinance, those variances may not comply with that ordinance, if that makes sense, because you're not just allowing that blanketly for everyone as many as they want. So, I mean, I guess you could say subject to the new ordinance being adopted or something.
Well, I think the ordinance is if it's only reviewed every 7 years, 5 years on the master side plan. But we had Hurricane Michael come and now we have, I mean, we obviously had issues with RVs beforehand, but now you have it on a colossal status. Not in a negative way. They're doing what they have to do. Is I think that's when we have to immediately address these issues and run it through whatever policy procedures, ordinance regulation we have to speed up the process, because I've only got a few calls. I think some other commissioners maybe get some, I'm not sure.
Which y'all did. Y'all immediately took action to allow, if you directly from Hurricane Michael, to allow RVs, and that's still in effect. So y'all did that. to
So why
address-
would my person have to get a variance?
Was
to
it
live
for
in?
Michael?
So a variance or an extension?
Yeah, so y'all
Variance.
allowed it on an emergency basis if you were impacted by Michael specifically.
So I
So-
just think it's,
Let's,
do this in the next meeting. Don't do.
All right.
I got some more questions.
let's
You
kick
got
the can
anything?
on down
No,
the
no,
road a
no,
little
no,
bit
no,
more.
I mean,
That's the problem.
Well, y'all can
about
take-
10 minutes. We need to.
Y'all can take a motion to authorize a variance to be
Well, I don't know
given.
that's what we need to do, but I mean, like I said, these people living in RVs all over this county.
I'm not
Because
disagreeing with
it's
that.
not being enforced.
So, but we're gonna make somebody that's gonna, do a variance and have to go through the thing just where they can live in their camper while they build their house.
Well, first of all, we don't have a code enforcement. I don't think yet. We
No.
West Windy. So it's
But
irregardless.
he can't get, no, he can't, it's gotta get a variance and go through the hoops to get to us to us to prove it, because we don't have one today on this lady. I don't know. if
So
she-
these are really
put it
just
in or not.
policy issues.
Yeah,
Y'all
we don't
really
fix
do
the
have
policy.
the ability to give that policy. If she says that's okay on like just an understood variance process where it doesn't have to come to the board and want to make that policy, the staff just enforces what they have to work with.
if the board votes, passes something, then it should be understood that henceforth, that's the way we're going to go.
Or the process.
And you got
starts
to
do
go,
it.
no, no,
Well,
no,
if it's-
I don't want that.
There's
Well, I
a
agree
state
with you, but
mandate-
if
if there's a state mandated
Yeah, that's what I'm
process
saying.
that you've got to go through.
You got to go through
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
changes.
saying. Yeah,
It starts at
They
that point
change
in
it,
time.
but what I'm saying is the staff, when I walk in out there and say, I want to live in my motor home, they say, oh, okay, you can do that. The board's already voted on it. Meanwhile, they're doing the necessary paperwork to change the
Well,
document.
I don't think they can do that, because then they would be in violation. They would
We're
be-
already in violation by allowing people
Who's
to
the
live in
police
there.
going to
But
police?
staff is
Well,
not,
that's what I'm saying.
staff is not allowing that. Staff is just
Let's
going
kick the
by
can.
what's.
Okay.
what's in
We'll kick it
place.
again. I can't.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Commissioner McKinney? I have a couple of things, then we're gonna take a break. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Clay, you have anything before she jumps ahead of you?
She has his.
Go ahead.
On 323, you approved the sole purchase from Ecart Plastics for some pieces of the blue screen stop.
Yeah,
The quote that was provided was $30,425 due to some parts that we decided we needed and some changed out parts that the cost is now $32,204.33, which is a difference of $1779.33. I just need your approval to pay the invoice.
So move, Mr. Chair. What-
1,700.
Yeah.
1,700.
It was
Yeah.
$1,779.33.
Where-
Got a
where's the-
motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Pate. Go ahead.
Where's the funding coming from that?
This was insurance proceeds.
Right, okay.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
And the other item, let me pass something out. I received this from, property appraiser. She asked me to bring it up. She was gonna try to comment. In the audit, they determined there was extra fees. There were map monies that she didn't know were there until they did the audit of $4,297. Request to keep those funds.
For what?
She wants to use
For a
either
vehicle?
to do an upgrade to her mapping system or possible upgrade to her.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner McKinney. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, yesterday I had the opportunity to go out to Camp Anderson. I don't know if you gentlemen or the people in here are familiar with Camp Anderson, but it's a religious camp in the old Baptist property out off of Highway 90. Sheriff Edenfield was there. They did a ribbon cutting. Last week, they had 500 kids out there in the camp. They started another 500 yesterday. They are going to run 9 weeks at 500 per week. It's very religious oriented. It's a very nice facility. They've made it, they've done a lot of work out there and it's very nice. I would recommend if you get a chance, drop by and take a look at it.
Who's the
Bloodworth is,
Who's the director out there?
William Bloodworth. Yeah, he looks like Santa Claus. Just go out there and tell him you want to talk to Santa Claus. But anyway, it's a very nice facility. If you are affiliated with any church that, and y'all have some youth that wants to go to a Christian camp for a week, they'd be glad to accommodate them. They want to do some outreach to the local community and get people involved out there. Most of the people that were there were out of Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and he said he had some out of Tennessee. But it's good for the county. It's good that you're going to go out of those 500 kids that are out there. There's going to be some adults that come and probably spend the night as they drop off their children. The other thing I've got, and Rhett, this pertains to you, is possibly doing something, and for lack of a better term, I call it an old day at Blue Springs, where we invite people like 55 and over to come out to Blue Springs to see the spring and see the upgrades that's been made. Is that something you guys may be interested in as a commissioner?
You talking
I
about?
would
For a
participate.
tour, or are you talking about the?
Tour and maybe get the sheriff to cook them a hamburger and give them. But they won't, but they had, they spent their youth out there and they'd like to come look at all the upgrades. If we're not going to invite them out for a day, maybe work out something where they can come in for free or something. I don't know. But I've had some interest from people.
When could you do that on a day?
Well, we
Just pick a date
probably
to make
want to bring them
everybody
out there
stand
when
Yeah.
it's not open to the
What day is
children.
it open?
It's
Brett?
open all the time.
What's the lowest volume day you have? Pick one of those days in the future.
Or
Another option, and I get this all the time, and I'm forgetting to bring it up, is, we have a military first responder discount. Many places do a senior citizen discount, we do not, so that might be another option you want to look at.
that's what I was thinking.
I mean, why don't we just do that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
What are you gonna call senior?
55 and older?
55
55 and older, I make a motion, we said that we include them with first responders and military discounts, anyone over the age, we don't do Jackson County system or anyone, I'd say anyone over the age of 55, has that same discounted rate, at least.
Discount or get in free?
Discount. I thought we
Same as our emergency response.
Yeah, I thought the
military.
same as military.
Are they free?
No discount.
it's 50% off.
Yeah, 50% off, $2.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Donifro to,
I'm for that.
Reduce
Can we look into having a special day?
Oh, I still want to do that. Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah.
Because I think that would be good. to
It
get
started
some
off and
people
we
that-
announced that day that that's what we're gonna do with the paper. I'm sure Deborah and Sheila will do
Brett,
that.
did you get that? Let's still look at a day that we
Yeah.
might can do what
Yeah, I
was
agree with you.
I'd
recommended.
be
and-
willing to contribute some money.
Yeah, well, we
pay
can
for
get the county and all
hamburgers
to
and
help
sodas,
out with that.
chips.
Yeah.
I mean, it might create more people coming.
Yeah, provide, you
Because the
know, especially if you get the
improvements are
churches
really
and the
nice.
civic organizations around here to let them know about it, even all of them that they don't be out there, that'd be good. Discount, I agree.
Another thing Danielle just brought up, we implement the 50% off on the season pass as well for military first responders. We want to include the season
I
pass.
included all of it.
Yeah, and seniors 55 and over.
Absolutely.
And that'll be effective as soon as I send the text message out.
As we vote.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. All right, that's all I have. We have a special meeting starting shortly. Right now, we're gonna take I want